happy enough for them to go far enough, just not like if they don't actually end up lifting that trophy at the end of it. But they have the potential to be very good to watch if they click in those areas. And like over the years, you've watched England go to tournaments, regardless of what's been going on with their players at club level. Like, I think of 2010 in South Africa, 2014 in Brazil. Actually, like, not good to watch. Like, they were just not like be outpassed by teams, and teams will be more creative. Whereas actually now, like Stephen mentions, Grealish and players that you actually feel like England are a team that you want to watch their games because they're one of the better teams to just enjoy their football. And that is actually a sea change, to be fair, from where they're at. And maybe in some respects, that's why people have warmed to them in some ways too.
You don't think that, Dan, that's why, say, I know myself, I like watching them play, getting so far, but there's still that little bit inside you that just you can't want them to win. I don't know what it is. I try and want them to win. Like, my wife's English, the kids are happy, but I just can't bring myself to kind of, like, it's always that's an automatic shutter that comes down and you watch them, they're great.
That's hard enough for us without having kids.
So you've got English. You've been English. I mean, you are an ultimate case study here now. You should be sat down.
I've had massive arguments because like my son, when he got knocked out by Croatia, was running around the living room like, and he done it off his own back. But like, I was getting in trouble off my wife as if I was kind of made him do it. I'm like, nah, he's done that himself. Do you know what I mean? I'm sitting there calm watching. He's celebrating.
You're a good father.
I didn't speak to him for days.
You're a very good
John Duggan. I think John Duggan is okay with the English thing. Like, I see, some people would say it's immature to be thinking that way, and we need to get over it. But like, I don't know. I can't get my head around the idea of England winning their competition, I have to admit. And people would say, you need to grow up with that sometimes, but you can't help how you feel.
You just want Scotland to win it, if I'm honest.
But I mean, I don't think you're going to have that problem, to be honest, to be fair.
No, you know what I mean? Like, I just think these are the nations that I used to like kind of see. When you kind of we used to compete with them, and you're just like, I don't want them to be that far ahead where they're winning tournaments and we're like celebrating wins over Andorra. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
I've no issue with that. I went to see Tottenham when I was 9 years of age, and it was an amazing experience, and I've been a fan since 1986. And my sister's married to an Englishman. My nephews are half Irish, half English, and I've no issue with that. I've no issue with it. After 55 years, I think maybe them winning a tournament wouldn't be something I'd be too upset about, to be honest.
I don't think they're a bad bunch of lads as well, JD. Like from Southgate himself to Rashford.
They're likeable, aren't they?
Yeah, they're pretty likeable. The problem for me is I was talking to Will about this yesterday, and I realised halfway through my kind of spiel that the reason I don't want them to win is I just can't imagine being anyway happy to see Declan Rice lifting, the European Championships. As much as I completely defended him at the time, it'd just be hard to see him consistently singing God Save the Queen throughout the tournament and then lifting the tournament with all his buddies, having, basically turned his back on Ireland. And with Grealish, I on the other hand, I'd love to see Grealish do well. I think he's a brilliant player. But the Rice thing would become hard if they, were on the cusp of winning the tournament. That would probably tilt us in the balance. But I think if you did a poll of our listeners and viewers or whatever, it'd be interesting. I think it'd be fairly 50-50 on whether you'd like England to do well or not.
Well, 53106 is the text number, or Off the Ball on Twitter. But you can have both. You can have a conflict. You can have a dual situation.
Yeah.
John, you can.
I think that's fair. They're going to be a good side to watch as well.
You can want them to go all the way to the final, but then lose it. Like that's the way you settle it.
You're probably the same. Of all the international teams in the tournament, I'm probably more kind of interested in watching England than anybody. I'm looking forward more to watching their game because of the players that we watch week in, week out, which is probably, it's a little bit kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. That
it's a bit hypocritical in some ways. Like I'm the same. Like
it's like when you see all this kind of coming home and they're all like, obviously it might be a bit different with COVID. No wonder like the big screens around the cities and they're like, oh, and I just think, oh no.
Would we not be doing it though if we were in this position?
Yeah, but we're good crack and all that, aren't we?
Yeah, but like we think we're great, but then like we send we have a few points in town and they have to basically close the place down and so I don't like we're so bad as an international football team relative to England. Like what was the tournament where we were there and England weren't? Was it Euro
94?
USA 94?
USA 94.
So I was a kid at that time, and I didn't think it was abnormal that Ireland would qualify for like 2 successive World Cups and England weren't there, and was like, you know, we were almost on a par with them. And now they're like, when you hear the debate about the players at Southgate, like he might leave Sterling out, he might leave such and such out. You're like, oh my God, like what we would do for any of these players. Like we're so far off them at the moment.
The thing is though, Johnny, like we were speaking about dark horses there earlier on in the show. Like how long do you reckon it is before we're a dark horse at a tournament? Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know whether we'll all still be alive at this rate, will we? Do you know?
More of a dead horse at a tournament. But I think, it's a strange one though. Like this England debate, because there's layers to it. Because like I've been at a lot of major tournaments where England have been there, and like, even in 2018, even around their fans and stuff, there was quite a good vibe, you know. And maybe it was just because Russia was a place that, listen, not too many travelled, and maybe those that travelled were a small bit more open-minded and stuff. But like, you know, I think of years back being in South Africa in 2010, I think it was Port Elizabeth or somewhere, some dingy place, and like, you know, you hear this sound of England fans in the distance singing about 10 German bombers and all of this, and you're like, oh no, you know, I can't want this team to do well, you know. It's just like there's an element attached to the support sometimes. And don't get me wrong, for all we talk about the Irish fans being good crack, like for a lot of other people might just find them annoying as well too, you know. But there is a sense that like you do think of some of the stuff around English fans at games and stuff, and listen, we've had our own experiences in '95, and like some of the people that latch onto them. I think that's always, for all we joke about maturity and immaturity, like I can understand. Like I don't think Irish people should ever have to apologise for not wanting England to do well. Like I think there are very natural reasons for that for a lot of cases. Other people will point out it's far more complex and they're completely different attitudes. They're from mixed families or whatever. Although Stephen's from a mixed family and he still feels like, you know,
no, but I just can't
get behind it. Yeah, it is. Of course.
Football, you don't want your local rival to go and win it. Like Bows fans don't want Shamrock Rovers to win the league this year. Do you know what I mean?
But the problem is, lads, is that like. The problem is if Ireland and England are in a tournament together, like by and large, every England fan will be wishing Ireland well, and that's where we seem deeply insecure in that. Like the English will always wish us well in tournaments, whereas like for a long time, basically we wanted England to lose, and now we're crap thrown into the bargain as well. So it's difficult, and we do feel a little insecure when we kind of want England to lose in a tournament that, let's be honest, I mean, we don't really have much of a loyalty to anyone in it.
Mind you, I would say, we talk about the likability, and there's obviously different views in the whole thing. You were saying almost all of the England fans, but like obviously the no surrender lads probably wouldn't. And you know, we have the taking the knee thing, which I don't necessarily want to go down that road, but obviously, you know, a lot of goodwill around England. Like, you know, if the taking of the knee is like booed before some of the England games and stuff, there is a possibility of a slightly different atmosphere and a debate creeping in around that English team too as well. And that's obviously a slightly complicated issue as well, because I mean, even the issues around the games in Middlesbrough, like, I mean, they were like the England supporters club, the England hardcore, so they're not everyone's cup of tea, you know, and that's possibly why there's some antipathy towards England.
53106, a Corkman was asked once, is there any chance you'd shout for England? He said, I would if they were playing for a tip. On 53106. And the reason why we're talking about this, in 2018, the top 7 shows in Irish television: Late Late Toy Show, Six Nations, England, Ireland. Number 3 was New Zealand, Ireland in the rugby. Number 4 was Croatia, England. More people watch Croatia, England in the World Cup semi-final than they watch the hurling final and the football final. So we are curious about how they get on.
We're a strange race, though. Like, obviously we've colonial hang-ups, Shitty, but whatever about our fascination with, we've an absolute fascination with the royal family as well in this country. Like, and this, I'm not talking about the Northern Ireland
or the TV show.
Or the TV. Well, the TV show I can understand, but like the Irish Times the other day, something about like Meghan Markle and whether she like asked Queen Elizabeth about the naming of the baby or something was almost like one of the top read stories. Like, this is absolutely incredible to me, but. Obviously, we've a strange post, like I don't want to say abused, but obviously we were the small power in a colonial empire, and you know, we fought for independence, but we still have this massive fascination with England, and it hasn't gone away.
The Crown as well. 53106. England wishing as well as like Alex Ferguson getting out with managers like Alison Pulis. We're not a threat, so they treat us nicely, says Owen.
Steve, can I ask you actually, what do the Ireland players want from, like, do the Ireland players in this Irish group, for example, or any Ireland group, how do they want England to do?
What, as a player?
like, do the Ireland squad in general, if the Irish squad are around, just happen to be watching an England match, do they want England to win or do they want them to lose?
If I'm watching England, I don't. If it's a friendly game, I don't really care. I'm speaking obviously for myself.
It's not a friendly game. It's a World Cup qualifier. England are playing England are playing the European final. Do the Irish players want them to win or do they want to lose? Considering they all play in England.
I would guess that they want them to lose. They won't probably say it publicly, but deep down, why would you want England to win? Like, I don't know. I'd be very surprised if maybe some of the kind of English Irish lads that have aren't a little bit more kind of. I don't know. You just don't want them to win a tournament. I don't know what it is. You just don't you know? You don't want them to win a tournament, do you, Johnny? Surely.
Being honest now, if it got to the occasion, I can talk all I want. I'm pretty certain, like instinctively, without me doing anything or being able to do anything about this, and all I can say on the radio, my body just does not want England to win these games. But it doesn't really make sense at this stage, but that's just how it is.
Isn't it easy to say, yeah, I want England to do well, and it's great you do well, and then all of a sudden you see them in the semi-final, you think, you know what, man, they're 2 games from, and all of a sudden it's that, like, even if you're saying you're trying, I want you, like, I'd be speaking to me father-in-law or something, I'd be like, yeah, I don't mind if you deep down, it's like, no, he's getting knocked out and then I can relax.
The father-in-law's not listening to this show, just to be clear. He's not listening
this is an awful lot like Brexit, in that people voted for it knowing that it wouldn't happen, if you know what I mean. So it's like grand, we can do this hypothetically, but let's vote for Brexit because it'll never happen. And now the reality is that it is. And if England are on the cusp of winning, a final, and we were sort of saying all along, yeah, I'd love England to do well, then you'd be like, no, actually, no, I don't.
I don't even know, probably like you, I don't even know the reason why I don't want them to win. Like, is it all the nonsense?
Is it all the nonsense around it, Stephen? Is it all the nonsense? It's not the players, it's not the manager, it's the nonsense around it.
We spoke about all the poppy stuff before in the show. I've no problems with any of that stuff. The way as an Irish, I understand history is history, and I've moved on for that, sure. But it's just regarding the football. I don't know. It's just something inside me that doesn't like. See if England winning the rugby, I don't even care. It's just the football. I don't know whether because I'm kind of. So, because I love football, it's just see if England won the World Cup in rugby, I swear to God it wouldn't bother me because I don't really, I don't love rugby the way I love football, so I wouldn't be that bothered about it, whereas in football, I just can't want England to do well. I don't know.
I think sometimes it is and I'm very conscious saying this as a member of the media, but sometimes it can be the media hype and the buzz that generated, and probably we're all roughly around a similar age, and I think that the England team, the so-called golden generation team, and the early 2000s, that team, 2004, 2006, and some of the buzz and hype that was generated around them, maybe even the way that they would speak about other nations that they were playing against, the assumption that England were going to go and do it, that maybe in a way, they built themselves up for that fall sometimes. Even when they played Iceland in 2016, and some of the language about Iceland beforehand is a small bit disrespectful, and you can't help but enjoy that. And because we live and we consume all their media and we consume all their their punditry and their their TV and everything, we see so much of it, and sometimes it's it's a very exceptionalist view of the world that it's we are England, that I think a lot of people just naturally rally back against that too. I think that's a big part of it.
The thing though as well, from an England point of view, they've not won anything. I know they've won the World Cup in '66, but they've gone through years of not winning anything as well. They're probably due, considering they're a huge football nation and they've got really kind of great history in the game, they're probably due to win a tournament, and most people wouldn't begrudge them, but I just think our small little island probably just would, wouldn't we? But the thing is, though, if they're ever going to win one, I think now is the time. They've got a huge chance. We can't get away from that.
They're going to go out in the last 16. That's what's going to happen, isn't it? And we'll have nothing to talk about. 53106, lads, how could you want England to win anything? It's post-colonial bias, and I'm okay with that. I'll watch their matches, but I won't be able to relax until they're knocked out. New Zealand never want Australia to win. Canada never want the USA to win. It's normal, says Pat.